My name is Joyce McCabe. I'm 31 years old, and until last year, I believed peace was the truest form of love. I used to think stability meant happiness, that a calm home, quiet mornings, and predictable routines were what made relationships last. But now I know peace can also be a disguise, a silence that hides the sound of something breaking. Ryan and I met 5 years ago at a design expo in the city. He worked in marketing charming, in that effortless golden boy kind of way. I was there with my team collecting user feedback for an app I'd been designing. He wandered up to our booth, latte in hand, curious about how design shapes emotion. I laughed that was his line. He had a way of making everything sound deeper than it was. We exchanged numbers, and by the next week we were inseparable. He was all enthusiasm and ideas while I was steady and patient. I helped him organize his thoughts, turn his impulsive dreams into tangible plans. He told me once, "You're my anchor, Joyce. You make the world less chaotic." At the time, I thought that was love. The first few years were good, easy even. We rented a small apartment above a coffee shop, shared lazy Sunday mornings, and planned trips we never quite took. I'd wake up before him, make breakfast, and work on my freelance projects while he brainstormed new marketing pitches. It wasn't exciting, but it was ours. Then the layoffs came. His firm downsized, and suddenly Ryan was home all day, restless, uncertain, and lost in self-help books. I tried to be supportive. I told him it was okay to take time to figure things out. But he hated the quiet I found comforting. He'd pace the living room muttering about purpose, about how the world rewarded people who vibrated higher. It started small, a few online meditation classes, a new morning routine, affirmations written on sticky notes across the bathroom mirror. Then he found her. Lila, a transformational coach, as she called herself, she hosted online sessions about self-realization, alignment, and spiritual freedom. She had that glossy, confident look like someone who believed their own light could heal others. Ryan was mesmerized. He'd talk about her constantly. Lila says growth only happens when we step outside comfort zones. Lila says emotional safety is just another word for stagnation. I'd nod and smile, trying not to sound defensive. I thought it was just a phase, another self-improvement kick that would fade when he got a new job. But then he began to change in subtler ways. The way he looked at me during dinner distant, like he was studying me through a lens someone else had handed him. The way he corrected my tone mid-conversation, saying, "You sound dismissive." My therapist says that's emotional resistance. He was learning to use therapy language like a weapon, turning every disagreement into proof of my immaturity. I remember one night vividly. He'd just finished one of Lila's live streams and came to bed still glowing from it. I asked how it went. He turned to me and said, "You know, Lila says people who crave stability are often the most emotionally blocked. They confuse peace with avoidance." He said it so casually, like he wasn't calling me broken to my face. That night, I stared at the ceiling long after he fell asleep, wondering if maybe he was right. Maybe I was avoiding growth. Maybe my quiet life, the one I loved, really was just a form of hiding. But that doubt didn't last. The next morning, I found our bedroom shelf rearranged. My old journals, the ones filled with sketches and private thoughts, were replaced by his stack of self-help books and a printed quote that read, "Detach from those who anchor your soul in stillness." I stared at it for a long time. Something inside me began to shift. A small, cold realization that peace could be mistaken for paralysis by people who only understood chaos. Weeks later, he started talking about Lila's retreat center, a community for awakening souls. He said she'd invited him to join as a creative director. It sounded like a cult disguised as a wellness brand. I laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, but he didn't laugh back. That night, he said, "Joyce, I think you should come too. You need this. You're stuck." His words stung deeper than he knew. I wanted to say I'm not stuck, I'm steady. But he wouldn't have heard it. He'd already tuned his mind to someone else's frequency. For the first time in our relationship, the silence between us wasn't peaceful, it was suffocating. He started sleeping with his phone on Lila's group chats, whispering goodnight to strangers online instead of to me. And I started sleeping on the edge of the bed, listening to the hum of his phone screen glow, realizing that our quiet life, the one he used to call grounding, now felt like a waiting room for goodbye. I didn't know it yet, but the end had already begun. I thought peace meant stability, I whisper now when I look back on that time. I didn't realize for Ryan it meant escape. The night he told me he was leaving, there was no shouting, no slammed doors, just a single sentence that cracked everything open. "Joyce," he said, not meeting my eyes, "I've realized our paths no longer align." He stood in the middle of our living room, half his things already packed into boxes. My coffee mug sat on the table beside him, steam rising between us like a fragile veil. I remember staring at it, at how ordinary it looked, while my world quietly rearranged itself. I asked softly, "Is this about Lila?" He hesitated, then nodded. "She helped me see that we're vibrating on different frequencies. I've been holding back my growth to keep you comfortable." I laughed, a sharp, small sound that startled even me. "Growth," I repeated. "That's what we're calling betrayal now." He flinched. "This isn't betrayal, it's self-awareness." I almost admired how calm he was. The serenity of someone who'd rehearsed this scene in his head, coached by a woman who probably smiled through her own endings. "She says true connection can't thrive in comfort," he continued, as if quoting scripture. "That peace is an illusion when it comes from fear." "She says," I echoed. "Lila says a lot, doesn't she?" His jaw tightened. "Don't mock what you don't understand, Joyce. You've always been so content. But contentment isn't growth, it's avoidance." There it was again. That word, avoidance. Like my love, my steadiness, my quiet support through his anxiety and unemployment, all of it was a symptom to be cured. He started pacing his energy, restless. "I can't do this anymore. The constant stillness, the same dinners, the same weekends. Lila showed me I'm meant for something higher, something transformative." "And does this transformation," I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, "include sleeping with your spiritual coach?" He froze. His face gave him away before his words did. "It's not what you think," he murmured. It's connection. She and I share something beyond physical. It's about energy exchange." Energy exchange. I almost laughed again, but it caught in my throat. "Ryan," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice, "you didn't find enlightenment. You found permission to be selfish and call it sacred." He sighed as if I were the one who didn't get it. "You're making this toxic. My therapist says endings are opportunities for growth. You should thank me someday." For a moment, all the noise inside me stilled. There was nothing left to argue. No words that could reach a man who'd mistaken narcissism for wisdom. I looked around the apartment, the framed photos, the stack of unpaid bills, the potted plant he never watered but always claimed was his spiritual responsibility. It was our life, ordinary and real. And he wanted to trade it for a fantasy where everything painful was just a lesson from the universe. So I did the only thing I could think to do. I walked to my desk, opened my laptop, and booked a moving truck. When I handed him the confirmation number, he blinked. "What's this?" "You said endings are opportunities," I replied. "So here's yours. I'll pay for the truck. You can move into your higher frequency without any baggage." He stared at me, searching for a reaction, anger, tears, pleading. But I had none left to give. His voice softened, almost uncertain. "That's it. You're just letting me go." "I'm not letting you go," I said quietly. "You already left. I'm just making it official." The next morning, he was gone. His half of the closet empty. His books, his yoga mat, even his diffuser vanished. Only his printed quote remained on the shelf, detached from those who anchor your soul in stillness. I left it there, a monument to the absurd. That night, I sat alone at our dinner table, 2 plates out of habit. I poured myself wine and toasted to nothing. Outside, the city moved like it always did, cars humming laughter, echoing from the street below. Life didn't pause for heartbreak. It never does. And in the quiet that followed, something unexpected settled over me. Not rage, not sadness, just stillness. The kind that feels less like loss and more like clarity. He thought peace was suffocation. He never realized it was strength. As the candle on the table flickered out, I whispered into the dark, "You said you needed transformation. I hope you find it because I just found freedom." The first morning after Ryan left the apartment didn't feel empty. It felt hollow, like something had been pulled out from the walls, but the shape of it still lingered. His toothbrush was gone. The diffuser that used to hiss lavender oil into the air was silent. And yet I could still hear the echo of his voice in the quiet. "You're too comfortable, Joyce. That's not peace, that's avoidance." For the first time in years, I made coffee just for one. The cup clinked louder than usual against the counter. I sat by the window with my mug, watching the light shift through the blinds, trying to feel something other than the numb weight pressing against my ribs. At first, I waited for anger to come, or grief, something big and cinematic. But what came instead was stillness. Heavy, grounded, unhurried. The same stillness he'd mistaken for weakness. The days blurred together after that. Work became my lifeline. I threw myself into projects, stayed late, took on extra clients. Anything to fill the silence. My coworkers, kind but cautious, offered invitations I always declined. Next time I'd say smiling politely. Nights were the hardest. The quiet after 10 p.m. stretched like a fog. I'd read then reread the same paragraph or stare at the ceiling wondering when healing would start to feel less like waiting. Sometimes I'd catch myself scrolling through his old posts, him grinning under Lila's caption, "When two souls align, magic unfolds." The comments were full of heart emojis and affirmations. I'd close the app, my throat tight, not from jealousy, but pity. It all looked so fragile, like glass trying to call itself light. A month later, I moved. Not far, just to a smaller coastal town where my company had a branch office. A place where the air smelled like rain and salt instead of car exhaust and ambition. I rented a one-bedroom cottage with peeling paint and ivy climbing the back wall. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first night there, I left my phone in another room and listened to the waves instead. The silence was no longer heavy. It was honest. I started running again, something I'd stopped years ago when Ryan said it was too solitary. I liked the solitude now, the sound of my own breath sinking with the ocean wind. I'd return home flushed alive, muscles aching, heart steady. Weekends were simple. Morning coffee, a sketch pad, long walks along the cliffs. I didn't talk about him. I didn't need to. The absence was teaching me more than the relationship ever had. About 2 months after the move, I ran into an old acquaintance, Sophie, one of Ryan's yoga friends. She looked surprised to see me at the market, then hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she should say something. "Joyce," she said, finally lowering her voice. "You heard about Lila's community, right?" I shook my head. "No, I don't follow that anymore." Her expression tightened. It fell apart. Completely. Turns out Lila wasn't what she claimed. Some of her members came forward, said she was taking money, controlling people's lives, even their relationships. Ryan, he was one of them. I stayed quiet, unsure what to feel. "She kicked him out," Sophie continued, "apparently after draining his savings. He's been staying with someone else from the group. He looks awful." I nodded slowly. "That sounds unfortunate." Sophie looked at me carefully, as if searching for resentment, maybe even satisfaction. But all I could offer was truth. "He made his choice," I said. "Now he's learning from it." She hesitated. "He told some people you abandoned him." I smiled faintly. "If that's the story that helps him heal, he can keep it." That night, as the rain tapped against the windows, I thought about what she'd said, about the way karma doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just whispers. I'd spent months thinking I'd lost something irreplaceable, but Ryan hadn't left me for enlightenment. He'd left me for an illusion that eventually collapsed under its own emptiness. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the one who was left behind. I felt like the one who got away. In the morning, I opened my journal, the one I'd started the week he left. I wrote, "Stillness isn't avoidance. It's recovery. It's grace disguised as quiet." Then I closed it, made coffee, and watched the sunlight spill across my table. The world hadn't gotten louder, but I finally had. It started with a message, a number I didn't recognize, just a few words on a gray screen sitting quietly between my grocery list reminders and work emails. "Ryan, Joyce, it's me. Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time before locking my phone. 3 months of silence, and suddenly this. An hour later, another notification. "Ryan, I know I hurt you. Lila wasn't who she said she was. I've been doing therapy. I finally see things clearly. Please, just one conversation." I didn't reply. By then I had learned that not responding was a response. The next few days, more messages came, each one shifting tone like tides. Apology turned to nostalgia, nostalgia, to pity, pity, to guilt. "Remember our hikes in spring? You always believed in me when no one else did. I'm sorry for calling your peace avoidance. You were right." Then a darker tone crept in. "You ignoring me is cruel. My therapist says closure is healthy for both sides. Avoidance is emotional immaturity." "Joyce, I thought you'd grown past that." There it was again, the weaponized language of therapy. He couldn't resist turning even apology into control. I didn't delete the messages. I let them sit there, lined up like small ghosts, proof that the past was still trying to crawl out of its grave. A week later, the calls began. I muted every one of them. Then came a voicemail. His voice was quieter, almost childlike. "Hey, I don't even know if this is still your number. I miss the way things used to be. Lila ruined everything. She took everything. I thought she was helping me grow, but she broke me. You always said peace comes after chaos. I get it now." He sounded desperate, but not sincere. More like someone missing comfort, not love. Still, I couldn't help but feel that flicker of pity, the same instinct that once kept me holding him together when he was falling apart. But this time, I didn't reach for it. Instead, I walked down to the beach at sunset. The sky was pink and bruised, the waves moving slow and deliberate. I watched them roll and thought about how peace isn't something you wait for, it's something you defend. When I returned, there were 5 missed calls. I blocked the number. A few days later, he found another way. A message request on social media from Mia, one of his old friends, who used to post affirmations about boundaries while gossiping behind everyone's back. "Mia Joyce, you need to talk to him. He's broken. He's living with friends, no job, no car. The least you could do is not ignore him." I blocked her too. Then came a call from an unknown number late one evening. I almost didn't answer, but I did. A male voice, curt and impatient. "This is Tom," he said, "Ryan's brother. I hadn't heard that name in years. He told me you won't respond. He's been crying every night, Joyce. After everything he did for you, this is how you treat him." I took a breath. "Tom," I said, steady but firm, "I think you've got that backwards. And if you ever call me again, I'll consider it harassment." Then I hung up. It took a while for the shaking to stop after that call, not from fear, but from the reminder that some people only see what they want to see. The next day I received one last message from Ryan. "Fine, ignore me. But you're proving Lila right. You are emotionally immature. You hide behind silence because you can't face real emotions. Pathetic." I didn't reply. I didn't even feel angry, just tired. That night, I deleted every message, blocked every number, archived every photo. I wanted no trace left of him in the architecture of my peace. But the universe wasn't done testing me. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my old landlord back in the city. He sounded uneasy. "Hey, Joyce, your ex Ryan came by the building today, said he was looking for you." Pounded on the door, left some kind of letter. My chest tightened. Did he leave a forwarding address? No, just said it was urgent. I told him you'd moved and hung up. I thanked him, hung up, and stared out the window. The ocean looked calm that night, almost too calm. I could hear the wind brushing against the glass, whispering that peace wasn't the absence of storms. It was knowing they couldn't touch you anymore. I never opened that letter. I didn't need to. Because deep down I already knew what it said. I missed the quiet. And that I realized was the part he never understood. The quiet was never his to return to. It had been almost 8 months since the last message. I'd started to believe that was it, that Ryan had finally moved on, found another audience for his redemption story. Then one afternoon, my coworker mentioned a wellness expo happening downtown, a networking event for local brands. I didn't plan to go, but my manager encouraged it. "Good for visibility," she said. "You used to work in user experience. People love that at those things." So I went. The convention center was crowded with crystals, essential oils, and smiles that felt a little too polished. I drifted between booths, half listening to pitches about mindfulness retreats and spiritual productivity. It was ironic, really, all these people selling peace like it was a subscription plan. And then across the hall, I saw him. Ryan. He looked smaller. Not physically, but in presence. His hair was longer, messy, his shirt wrinkled. The old confidence was gone, replaced by a kind of frantic politeness as he handed out pamphlets for something called Renewed Radiance Coaching for Conscious Healing. I froze. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Just quiet awareness, like watching an echo of a life I no longer belonged to. He noticed me before I could turn away. His face lit up with disbelief, then relief. "Joyce." People turned. I nodded, once polite, detached. "Ryan." He hurried over, nearly tripping over a display stand. "I can't believe it's you. I've been wanting to talk just 5 minutes, please." I hesitated, then gestured toward a quiet corner behind a curtain divider. 5 minutes. He followed like someone being led to confession. Up close, I saw the exhaustion behind his eyes, a mix of shame and panic. He spoke fast words, tumbling. Lila's retreat was a scam. Everything fell apart after she disappeared with the money. I tried to rebuild. "I've been working on myself. I'm sober now. I'm teaching small workshops, helping others heal through the pain." I let him talk. He wanted an audience, not forgiveness. "I was wrong about you," he said, voice trembling. "You were right about everything. The stillness, the way you lived, it wasn't avoidance. It was real peace. I just didn't see it because I was too what?" I asked softly. He swallowed. "Too proud, too addicted to chaos. For a moment, silence settled between us, the same kind we once shared over morning coffee before everything cracked. He stepped closer. Joyce, I know I don't deserve it, but can we start again? I miss you. I miss how grounded I felt with you. You always kept me centered. I looked at him, then really looked. The man who once called my calmness stagnation was now begging to stand in its shelter. I shook my head gently. You don't miss me, Ryan. You miss the version of yourself that existed when I was holding you together. His eyes glistened. That's not true. I love you. I've changed. No, I said quietly. You've adapted. There's a difference. He blinked uncomprehending. Why are you being so cold? I'm not being cold, I replied. I'm being clear. You told me peace was emotional immaturity, that I was small because I didn't crave chaos. But peace isn't small, Ryan. It's powerful. It just doesn't scream to prove it. He opened his mouth to argue, but no words came. People walked past the hum of conversation, filling the space again. For a moment, I felt almost sorry for him, but only almost. Lila called it awakening, I said softly. But all she did was teach you to run from stillness. You both mistook noise for depth. He flinched as if struck. You don't have to say it like that. How else is there to say it, I asked. You built your peace on other people's pain. Now that it's gone, you want to borrow mine again. But I spent too long rebuilding it to hand it back. His lips parted, trembling. So, that's it. That's it, I said. No anger, no hate, just closure. I turned to leave. He reached out not to grab me, but as if the gesture itself could keep me still. Joyce, please. I have nothing. I paused, meeting his eyes one last time. Then maybe for the first time you'll learn what real peace feels like. And with that, I walked away. As I stepped out into the sunlight, the wind caught my hair and carried with it a strange kind of lightness. Behind me, the convention doors closed, sealing that chapter where it belonged among people still selling the illusion of calm. For me, peace wasn't a product, it was a choice. And I had finally made it. It's strange how endings rarely sound like thunder. Sometimes they arrive like a whisper, a breath, a door clicking shut behind you. And when it's finally quiet again, you realize the silence isn't empty. It's full of everything you had to become to survive it. Months have passed since that day at the expo. Life has softened into rhythm again. Not the rigid routine I once clung to, but a gentle pattern that feels like my own heartbeat. I wake early, open the windows, and let the morning air drift through. The ocean hums faintly in the distance, steady and sure. I make coffee, write a few lines in my journal, and sometimes when the light hits the table just right, I catch myself smiling, not because I'm happy all the time, but because I'm at peace even when I'm not. I think about Ryan less and less. When I do, it's with a quiet acceptance. He was a mirror reflecting the part of me that thought love meant endurance, that if I was calm enough, patient enough, I could steady someone else's storm. But some storms don't want to settle. Some only know how to destroy. I used to think stillness was weakness, or at least that's what the world told me. That to be quiet was to be dull. That chaos was where passion lived. But I've learned that quiet isn't the absence of feeling, it's the containment of it. It's choosing not to let the noise define you. Sometimes when I walk along the cliffs near my cottage, I see couples passing by, fingers intertwined, laughter carried by the wind, and I don't feel envy anymore. Just calm gratitude that I know how to love without losing myself. I even went back to therapy, real therapy this time. Not the kind that preaches alignment or frequency, but the kind that teaches you how to stand still in your own truth. My therapist asked me once, if you could say one thing to him now, what would it be? I thought for a long time before answering. I'd tell him thank you. Not for what he did, but for what he revealed. Because if he hadn't broken everything, I never would have learned that I don't need to fix anyone else to be whole. Last week, a letter arrived at my new address forwarded from my old apartment. No name on the envelope, just familiar handwriting. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I burned it in the sink that night, watching the paper curl into gold ash. The flame flickered, hissed, and vanished, leaving nothing but warmth behind. And in that moment, I realized I was free not from him, but from the version of myself who thought peace needed to be earned. Now, when people ask if I'm seeing someone, I just smile and say yes, because I am. I'm seeing myself clearly, fully, finally. The sea outside my window moves in slow, graceful waves, each one different, but all leading back to the same shore. That's what healing feels like, not a straight line, but a tide that always returns home. They used to say my quiet life was emotional immaturity. That comfort was cowardice. That peace was the opposite of passion. But they were wrong. Peace is not immaturity, it's mastery, and I've never felt more alive in the silence.